Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating that sort of thing.
Well, this is Joe Hoft filling in for Tina Peters today on The Truth Matters. It's an honor to be here as always. So honored and so happy to be here for Tina Peters and for all you who are wondering about how she's doing, et cetera. I've got an update that I'll be sharing with you in the program today. We've got a lot of great information we're going to be sharing with you as well. Lots going on as always. We'll mirror this show in similar manner that we do the Joe Hoff show. So I hope you can bear with me through that. We'll probably go through some top stories and then bring on an excellent guest just for you. And I can't wait to hear this guest, as a matter of fact. So I'll hold off a little bit, leave you in some suspense before we bring on our guest in the second segment of the show. But anyways, thank you all for being here. Thanks for your prayers for Tina, for her family, for all of us here at Untamed. Really appreciate your support, your love, and you're watching us, you're supporting our those who support us, and your kind words and prayers. More than anything, we really, 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 most importantly, appreciate your prayers. I think I remember that once. I was reminded that as I was just saying this once. I said to my mom as I was going through a challenging period in my life. My mom was elderly. She was probably in her 80s by then. And I said, well, I guess all I can do is pray for this person. And my mom looked at me and says, well, that's the best thing you can do. So, so true from the absolute, um, from the beautiful being that my mom was. I consider her a saint, and I don't take that lightly. And a lot of people think their moms were special. Our mom was blessed, and she had 9 children, and very, very challenging. I would say very challenging life. And 9 kids alone is going to keep you busy, but had some challenges and not just survived but thrived. Just and did her best to make her children the best they could be too, and then let go. And so wonderful woman. We'll always miss her. She's passed away, but it's an honor. I guess maybe I'm thinking about my mom as I think about Tina Peters. What a beautiful woman she is, and she was a mom, and we're going to share a little bit of information about her here in moments about what's going on with her now. But perhaps and I'll mention some of that. Part of her being a mom is a big part of her story. She loved her son. It's very clear. Anyways, before we get going on that, let me mention that I'll be in St. Louis in a week or so, April 4th through 6th, at an event with United Sovereign Americans. It's in St. Charles, Missouri, actually, just outside of St. Louis. There's going to be a Friday evening get together, and then there will be all day Saturday and all day Sunday. Some speakers, great topics, and a couple of great keynote speakers. One is myself, and I'm thrilled to be there. I'll be speaking at noon on Saturday. And then Ann Vandersteel, the great Ann Vandersteel, will be speaking at that evening. And so it should be a great time, a lot of great topics. Look forward to it. Look forward to meeting people there. And if you can make it, really appreciate it if you can show up. The cost is great. You've got a lunch Saturday, Sunday, and a dinner on Saturday night, all involved. So hopefully you can make it and join us. It's right there in St. Louis, outside actually of St. Louis in St. Charles County, St. Charles, Missouri. So hopefully you can do it. Anyways, appreciate you being there. One piece I wanted to bring up this morning is this article that I received from a friend, Marty. I'm forgetting what his pen name is. He goes by Martell Maxim. So Mr. Maxim sent me this piece overnight and put it up here moments ago at the Joe Hoft at joehoft.com. And you can see it's a story about what's going on with Tina, a bit of her life story. As I mentioned, big part of her story was being a mom. At the end of the article, there is this piece where she said, or he said about his mom, these famous words that are in the movie Selection Code that just choked me up when I first saw it. It's would again if I saw it again. But what did his son think of his mom? He says, "My mom fixes things, and she will always do more than expected." And that's Tina Peters. And Tina's sitting in prison now because she was wrongly prosecuted and persecuted and thrown in prison for 9 years uh, for being a whistleblower, for identifying issues with the elections in her county, Mesa County. And because of that, and because of the corrupt actors that were running this country at the time, because there's even an event where there was evidence discussed that was presented by the county, and it was there were a couple of special guests on that called videotaping in. It was Christopher Wray, crooked, corrupt, disgusting, long-necked Christopher Wray, and his cohort in crime, Merrick Garland. They were going to make it a point that they were there to set the tone, set the stage. Let's hope those two are finally someday brought to justice for their many crimes against this country, many lies, many lies. And yet people in their positions needed to be held to higher standards. They always took the lowest standards and then broke them. And so real disgusting stuff. Anyways, Tina went on to identify some issues. Those in power didn't like it, like I said, including those in DC. And then they magically put together this series of crimes and then put it in front of a corrupt judge, and the corrupt judge sentenced her to the max. And thankfully now the Trump team's looking at it, and they announced this a week or two ago. They are looking into it. How can you charge this woman who's never been arrested before, Gold Star mom, lost her son, cancer survivor? How can you charge her with 9 years in prison for anything? She's a nice person. Never should have happened. This story, though, that was out over the weekend is that Tina was in her jail cell, and she's wondering, why does God have her there? Because it's been an absolute nightmare, as it is for most people, I assume, in jail and prison. And she says one night her roommate, or one of the individuals that she's in prison with, was crying because her boyfriend was there's something wrong. Tina, through those that she knew, was able to contact the police. They went and they found this man, and they actually saved his life. They brought him to the hospital and got him the care that he needed. Tina there from prison saved this individual's life. Anyways, you can read on the whole story about this at joehoft.com. And Tina's even saving lives from prison. So pretty interesting story. I thought you'd enjoy hearing that, and it's probably no surprise to you people that know Tina, know about her, know what a excellent person she is. So um, yeah, great story, and thank you. Excuse me, Martel Maxim, for that really encouraging letter and story of what's going on with Tina in her life right now. So thank you so much, Martel, for keeping us posted. Um, I saw a piece on Friday. It was from Lara Logan. A good friend of hers shared this piece on forgiveness, and I really liked it. And I had never really, if I'd heard this before, I hadn't appreciated it. But maybe it's coming from somebody who's been so, you know, terribly hurt that it means even more. And maybe I think we all have suffered pain. We know what pain is. And this lady goes on to talk about forgiveness. And oftentimes we're hurt due to the actions of others, at least or perceived actions of others. And that pain is really challenging sometimes. It's just so painful. And this lady, and many times we get harmed, and it's not our fault. We just we happen to be the person involved. And this lady tells her story to Lara Logan, and then she talks about forgiveness. And I just thought it was really powerful. So let's take a look at this short clip with Lara Logan.
But I really realized that God sent me to the United States to become a missionary. That's why he allowed it for me to come here, so that I could be a missionary to teach others that there's hope and that there is freedom, and that there's freedom in such a way to where you can have ultimate forgiveness for the person who raped you, for the person. Or I have not an ounce, not 1 ounce of hate for that man. If he were to walk into this room today, I could look at him and say, what you did to me was very wrong, because I was looking for a father. I wasn't looking for what you wanted to give me. But I do hope that you can make your life right with God, because even God created you. And I have complete forgiveness for the monster that you were in my story. And I don't hate him.
Really?
No. How does that happen, Laura?
I don't know.
How can that happen, right?
Yeah, how can that happen?
Because we don't possess the gift of forgiveness. I can't give forgiveness to myself. I can't make myself forgive anybody. Forgiveness is between you and the Creator. And it was always a misconception. I thought it was between me and my ex-manager. I'm like, God showed me it's not. It is a vertical, it's not horizontal. It's a vertical transaction that happens between you and God. And he gives you the portion of the forgiveness that you need for that, and that flows through you. But it takes a long time to do it, because I wasn't ready. I wanted to hate him. I wanted, him to be punished.
Yes.
And to every extent of the law, and I still think that he should be punished, and that's why
And
I
all
filed,
the others?
yes, and that's why I filed charges against him. I want him to be punished, but in my heart, I don't go to bed at night with unforgiveness and carry that weight with me. I don't want that weight, because I have now tasted and I've seen and I've felt what true freedom feels like.
Wow. Wow. I thought that was just absolutely powerful. It's a vertical transaction, not horizontal. I thought that's something. Forgiveness comes from God. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. If I have, I haven't been so impressed to hear it. That grabbed me. And I think it's real powerful from a person who's been hurt, who's suffered. Forgiveness comes from God. I guess the thought that when I heard that was, to pray for God's grace and his ability for me to forgive those who I believe have harmed me, who have harmed me, and whether intentionally or not. And that's maybe my job in it, is through time um, and through God's grace, learn how to forgive. Sooner, I always want it, the sooner the better, but I don't want to cheat myself either. There's a balancing job there too. And it's an important topic because, we've got Tina Peters sitting in prison right now. I call it prison. They keep shuffling her between jails before they send her to prison. Maybe they know that she's I don't know. Maybe there's a reason maybe it's more punishment for her to be put in jails, or maybe it's less punishment to be put in jails. I did probably, some people have told me it's more punishment. At least in prison, you get there's more of a standard lifestyle. In the jails, it's kind of bedlam. So not really sure all that's going on there, but God bless Tina Peters and help her, bless her, that she might have the forgiveness from God that will help her make it through this period of time, and all of us as we watch what's going on to this beautiful woman. Never should have happened. Speaking about never should have happened, I want to bring to your attention this ongoing case involving Seth Rich. I put this piece up at joehoft.com here this past week. I've been staying on top of this for years, writing first about it at the Gateway Pundit a number of times. The things about Seth Rich's murder never added up. They never added up. He was walking down the street at 4 a.m. He gets shot in the back a couple times. The cops, they're there. They've got the body cameras, which mysteriously disappear. They find him laying on the street almost immediately with a couple bullets in his back. And then they claimed it was a robbery, yet his family had said that his wallet was still on him, his watch, his phone. Nobody took that. But he, and actually, when he got to the hospital, as I recall, thoughts were that he was going to make it. He was bad, but he wasn't going to die. And Donna Brazil remembered Seth Rich in her book after the 2016 election, Remembrance of Seth Rich. And of course, the Democrats, in their classy way, put a bike rack in honor of Seth Rich at the DNC. That's just so disgusting. Seth Rich lost his life. Many believe that he lost his life because he's the one who leaked documents to WikiLeaks. He obtained emails from the DNC and somehow got those documents to WikiLeaks, and they wanted to, they wanted to kill him for that, and he did die. And they not exactly sure who, but certainly the Clinton campaign, because these emails were very, very damaging. There was one email I was mentioned to my brother Jim the other day. It was from one of from Hillary's campaign managers, and they're asking, should we take this money from Saudi Arabia? It's like $5 million. It's against the law. And so Hillary's response in the email is, take the money. The famous line, take the money. That's the kind of stuff that was in those emails. Hillary's never been charged for those crimes. Those have been all ignored. And instead, what happened is, I believe the Hillary campaign conjured up this narrative that Russia had stolen these emails and sent them to WikiLeaks. That was not the case. It never was the case. And for 4 years, nearly, even to this day, some Democrats continue with this narrative that Trump helped Russia send these emails to WikiLeaks. It was a total lie. Roger Stone's life was upside down because of it. He was indicted and was going to go to prison during COVID. And he finally was pardoned by President Trump before Trump left office. And I think Trump was prevented from pardoning a lot more people that need to be pardoned, because there are a lot of monsters in this DOJ, FBI, CIA, as we're finding out now. Our CIA was involved in the assassination of President Kennedy. So some pretty amazing stuff. My God, I just saw some video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's of some people are starting to say Jackie O was involved in the assassination. And I saw this video where and I've seen it 100 times, but I never thought about, does she have a gun in her hand that she's shoots him and his head goes back? Was that from her? Was that behind his head? Was she shooting him? And some people are making the assumption Jackie O was involved. And I also heard a video or an audio of her talking to LBJ, and they talk to each other. If that's indeed her, you're like, my God, they talk like they're got something going on there. Pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing stuff. So anyways, we'll find out more. More will be revealed. That's for sure. That's our promise. So Seth Rich, we believe he was murdered, and we believe that the FBI and DOJ has been covering it up. And for 8 years, one attorney has been trying to get to the truth, and is unable to. Ty Clevenger. And he continues to fight, and the FBI continues to withhold information. And my piece over this past week was Kash Patel, look at Seth Rich. That is the crux of the entire Russia collusion sham. The murder of Seth Rich put in place this narrative that Russia had stole those emails, which was a total lie, which put our whole country through hell for a long time. So the timing of these release of the JFK then enables us to begin to see that indeed now we have evidence the CIA was involved. And as a matter of fact, I saw one email that was Roger Stone shared about this from the JFK files, where he points out that there is a note from Hoover, the head of the FBI, to the older to somebody to say, make sure you CC in G.W. Bush and on anything about this assassination. So he was at CIA. He was at CIA then, and many people believe that the elder Bush was involved in the assassination. I didn't put a lot of credibility to that. I just thought that was some sort of misinformation. But man, now we've got a document that implicates G.W. Bush for sure. from these documents coming out of the CIA. So more will be revealed. Pretty scary stuff. I never thought Jackie O was involved, and I wasn't committed to the idea that G.W. Bush was involved. But now, who knows? Who knows? And that then opens up your mind to what else are these crooks able to do, and how can we protect ourselves against these monsters? We certainly needed that, and Tina Peters has been challenged by it as well. I wanted to pull up another piece real quick before we go to break. And this piece was sent to me on Thursday night, actually. Pastor David Lowry, who was on my show last week, sent me this information. He was invited to attend this outing in Chicago for jobs, to help young individuals obtain jobs and gain some training. He was invited, and he thinks he was sent to the wrong location, because when he went to this location wearing his Trump hat, when he went in, it looked like it was all Hispanics and very possibly illegals. And yet there was another event at a different place that had individuals in his that he thought they screwed up and sent him to the wrong place. Anyways, when he walks in with a Trump hat, that was it. He was asked to leave. And this whole event's being sponsored by the state of Illinois. So Pastor David Lowry has shared that. Pretty significant, pretty sad that that's what's going on in Chicago right now. But that place has been taken over by some monsters, and it needs cleaned up. It needs major overhaul, major cleaning from the governor on down. So let's pray for that. Anyways, yeah, all sorts of stuff. I guess I'll pause here and mention to you that we're going to be sharing some advertisements during the break here. But one of the entities that we're highly stoked about is this Oxford group. It's providing a smart investment opportunity where people aren't buying oil stocks, but they're collecting mailbox money from oil royalties instead. And this is a month after month residual income that can be started with as little as a $25 investment. Visit hoftoilboom.com to discover how to tap into these monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy or connected. All you need is a regular brokerage account, and you can check it all out again at hoftoilboom.com. So take a look there, and appreciate you supporting those who support us. And we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back on The Truth Matters with Joe Hoft today.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. Do you want to get profits from the world's most productive oil basin? Bloomberg calls the Permian Basin the world's most important growth engine for oil production. Now there's a way for everyday investors to collect monthly checks from an incredible oil hotspot. It's not a stock, and it's not an ETF. Instead, you can actually own royalty rights on over 380,000 acres of prime oil and gas fields. The best part? 95% of all income from this investment gets paid directly to investors like you. You can simply sit back and collect the royalty checks month after month. You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. Visit oilboom2025.com to learn more about the opportunity from the Oxford Club's Chief Income Strategist, Mark Lichtenfeld. That's oilboom2025.com to learn how to start collecting Permian Basin oil royalties today.
Hey, we're back here on The Truth Matters. Really thrilled to have with us today one of the really, I think, one of the smartest people involved in the election integrity effort across the country, and really has done incredible work with United Sovereign Americans, Marley Hornik.
Hey,
Marley,
Joe, it's
welcome.
thank you, Joe. It's so good to be back again with you.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think I first met you well, at least heard you. You were up on the stage in Springfield, I think at the second Lindell Symposium. I think it was the second one. And you spoke, and I was very impressed. Who is this girl that's talking? They just flood you with all this stuff. It was an all day of 5-minute speeches or whatever. And it was just, to me, a little too much. It's like, I'm not getting anything out of this because it's just too much. And no handouts or anything like that. I knew I could grab information, but you got up there and really laid out this story about New York and how you started this group, and you found some material issues. It was really an impressive talk that you gave. Do you recall that?
I do. It was the third Lindell Summit. I didn't go
Third
to the
one.
first two, but the third one, we had just basically started the transition from New York Citizens Audit into a national organization, United Sovereign Americans. And I was there to represent New York, but I wanted the American people to know that what we wanted to do was roll this out across the country. And yeah, I pretty much laid out the four main elements that United Sovereign Americans sees as critical for getting right in elections: the voters, the votes, the counts, and the records, which constitute the proof that we are being legitimately represented.
Yeah, and that sounds similarly eerily similar to Harry Hari and what he would say too. Those four categories. How did you meet Harry?
Oh, we spend a lot of time on the phone. Um, we met actually at the Pit, which was an event that True the Vote hosted in August of 2022. He was presenting information about the Help America Vote Act, and I was presenting information about a specific research project New York Citizens Audit had done. If people are following the story of the algorithms and the rules, that was the work of New York Citizens Audit, advised by Harry Howery, and of course Andrew Paquette was the one of the researchers. So that was what I was presenting at the Pit. Now, as grace would have it, Harry and I were sitting across the table from each other for the whole event. And after my presentation, he basically, suggested that we might be able to combine our efforts and each of us become more effective. And that proceeded to, well, I guess we got on the phone. That was Saturday. We got on the phone on Monday. And we got off the phone, as I like to say, about a year and a half later and founded United Sovereign Americans together.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's just brilliant. And I first was introduced to Harry through David Clements because he had him in his movie. And I just
Right.
thought the guy was brilliant. Yeah, just brilliant. So that's interesting. Yeah, he's a really sharp guy. I've enjoyed talking to him and meeting him. And he's full of information, right?
Well, he is. He's a historian, a philosopher, and he also happens to be one of the foremost cybersecurity experts in the country, specifically in the area of what's called information assurance, which is where you have, a cyber exposed national security, uh, element, and you have to control it. You have to absolutely protect it. And of course, elections are one of those items in the list of critical infrastructure designees for the federal government. So not only is he really a smart guy, but he has a specific area of expertise that overlays perfectly with what United Sovereign Americans and you and many others would like to see fixed and want to make arguments about. Not arguments like, punching each other in the face, but the real kind, the ones that actually accomplish new goals and achieve new heights for America, which we're perfectly capable of doing.
Mhm. Yeah, no, your work's been incredible. I mentioned to you before that I saw you there at Lindell's event. At some point in time, apparently after that, because I don't remember United Sovereign Americans talking about them before that, but I just thought you guys had a great idea there, and it was to address the fact that we're not in compliance with the law, and whether it be HAVA or I guess as you're suggesting as well, the infrastructure laws that were put in place to protect all of American infrastructure. I guess that was during the Obama years, right?
It was Obama who designated our voting systems as national critical infrastructure, which means that now every aspect of our voting systems is subject to the most stringent laws, whether they're cyber laws or whether they're supply chain laws. Everything about our voting systems is basically treated as a digital border of the United States of America. So if you can imagine, a military operation and the kind of resources and intelligence and personnel that would be employed to secure a military initiative, it's basically the same kind of an issue. You're securing not only the national sovereignty of the United States, you're securing the, multi-trillion dollar budget because who gets to spend that money at the national level is Congress. That's who authorizes spending, who determines what the spending is going to be, writes the laws that authorize the money to go out the door, and sign those. Sign those. They don't obviously don't sign the bill into law, but this is they vote on these things and pass them over to the president. So, again, just to make it simple, this border, this voting systems operational security boundary secures our entire economy, secures our national sovereignty. And then on top of it, because we are lucky enough and fortunate enough to be blessed to live in the United States of America, it ensures and secures our individual liberty and that of our posterity, our future posterity. So this couldn't be more important. It's impossible to conceive of a national security posture that encapsulates and allows, tens of millions of material errors inside of the system and calls that good enough for the American people. It's nonsensical.
And it's not good enough, right? I mean, basically, your evidence proves it's not in compliance with the law. Virtually, I suppose every state that you've looked at, and I don't know, what is it, number of states where you've looked at data on various elections. Have you found any state? Here's a question, and maybe tell me too how many states you've looked at over the last 4 to 8 years, 4 years. Have you found any states that are in compliance with, for example, with HAVA or some of these other regulations?
We've looked at 21 states comprehensively, and we've not found a single state in compliance. And one of the, I guess, one of the concerns that's levied at times against United Sovereign Americans is that we're just too nonpartisan, right? We just won't go after only this kind of state or only that kind of state. The truth is, Joe, when you see these kinds of patterns of manipulation of records and the massive numbers of injections of registration records that are materially deficient and votes that are materially deficient and votes that are flat out illegal, uh, you have to say to yourself, this is greater than what a chief election official is overseeing personally. This is an above state effort. It looks like espionage. Um, I'm not trying to overcomplicate the matter, but that's what it looks like. And that's the kind of investigation that really is warranted in this circumstance. Again, because this system secures our national sovereignty. End of story, period. So you can't have that amount of doubt. And then, as I said, it's in patterns. It's not like, oh, uh, New York and California do it one way, and Ohio and Florida do it a different way because one is Democrat and the other is Republican. No, you're seeing the same patterns. So is this even understood within the states? I have no idea. What we do know is that when we have reported it to all 21 of those states, not a single one took up the mission of trying to find out what's really going on here. And that's really unacceptable. Also,
Yeah.
in addition to the lack of compliance, that's demonstrated by the reports themselves, the unwillingness to open up the books and see if there's something, under these covers that is really very dangerous to our sovereignty is, I don't even know how to say it, actually. I find it
Shocking.
truly unconscionable. I can't think.
Yeah.
I understand that it's a really big ask and everybody wants to pass the hot potato. But look what happened, before the Civil War. Everybody wanted to pass the hot potato of slavery. And every time they tried to kick the can down the road, it just made it worse.
Mm.
So I don't think that anybody wants anything like that to happen here, but we're going to have to be honest and open up these darn books if we want to prevent it.
Mm. Yeah, amazing, amazing. Some of those states are red states too, you've looked at, right?
Yeah, that's the point. And, does that mean that the red states are, that the conservatives are cheaters and the progressives are cheaters and the Democrats and the Republicans are all, I don't know what it means. Nobody knows what it means until we have an investigation. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to say who's responsible. But what we do know is who is accountable for not preventing it. And that is the chief election officials of every state. They are responsible and accountable to both the state citizens and the federal citizens or the federal government for their failure to protect critical infrastructure, which is one of their jobs.
Wow. Wow. Secretaries of State then, in most cases.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Most states, it's Secretary of State. Sometimes they're elected, sometimes they're appointed, sometimes it's a board. But fundamentally, there is one person. We're talking about 50 Americans. Just wrap your head around that. 50 people who make the decision at the end of an administrative period for an election to certify or not. When they sign that certification document saying, hey, this state is in full compliance. Everything about these election returns is legitimate and according to process and compliant and accurate. They are in that moment, they sign that document. And we talk about people are joking about the auto pen. This signature is possibly, it could be one of the most important signatures every 4 years in the country and every 2 years for Congress. It says now the state government and the federal governments are duly authorized, legitimate, representative Republican forms of government representing the American people under the overarching guide of the United States Constitution and laws.
Hmm.
And they have no
And
idea. I mean,
and it's
again, I'm
not,
not
yeah.
saying that they are the perpetrator of this problem, but when they sign that document, United Sovereign Americans has proved their own records show they actually have absolutely no idea who won that election on a
Mm.
legitimate basis. I'll give you an example, Joe, something near and
Yeah.
dear to both of our hearts. The California 2024 midterm, 35% of the votes that they counted in that election are ascribed to registration records that do not meet their own legal standard. So there's what they call material errors, right? So these are people who are registered to vote before they're born, registered to vote on January 1st, 1850. Their name is asterisk. Uh, this is the kind of, they have actually some in California have absolutely no name, no address, and no other identifying information. It's just a statewide identifier number and a vote history. And it's just a blank. Talk about, your Mr. Nobody.
Mm.
So not only is that person not a citizen, they don't even exist. It's just complete, blatant fraud.
Mm.
So how is it that California certifies an election where 1 in every 3 votes counted comes from one of these registration records? They have no idea what the heck happened. They are in outright defiance of the United States Constitution in calling that a legitimate election. Because if you think about it, I think about these things a lot. The third sentence of the US Constitution says, on the one hand, the people of the several states choose their representatives for Congress. And on the other hand, the states determine what constitutes an elector. What are the eligibility requirements for their state citizenry to be an elector, not a presidential elector, but a voter? Right. So there's like right in the third sentence of the United States Constitution, there's like this handshake, right? The people and the state. Let's shake hands and have a real country. Now, what's going on is that the state is failing to uphold their half of the handshake. They're not following their own laws. So who's left high and dry is the people. The bridge that connects us to our representatives on a legitimate basis is broken. That's it.
Yeah, totally. Well,
And they're
totally.
not allowed to do that. They're not umpires.
Yeah.
That's not what they were hired to do, to sit and tell us whether or not it's a ball or a strike headed into the United States Congress. Unacceptable.
Mm. Absolutely. Your work is work, but it's really, really, it's really good and it's really important. I was thinking as you talk, for me, I guess my mind's racing and trying to figure out, what was it that I did when I looked at the election? I guess, well, right after the election, as we've noted before, I was just writing articles. I tell you, I worked so hard up to the 2020 election to help, Trump. And then I thought I'd get a breather. And it was the opposite. Come the day, what was it, November 5th or whatever of 2020, we were just on fire. We were trying, and all this evidence was showing up. It was just like you said, it's a fire hose of information coming at you, and we're just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb, and not a lot of other publications were doing it. Not a lot of people had the courage to stand up and say this is right. It's so clearly obvious, but nobody was willing to really stick their neck out and say that. I guess from my point of view, I was able to do that because I know audit. I mean, this is what I did for 20 years. It is hard sometimes to say this is wrong. Because you're putting your neck out there. You're the one saying this. It's not easy, but if in my career, that was part of what I was trained to do, and it wasn't so hard for me, and I had a lot of confidence in the information that I reported. Got very little feedback of whatever I reported was wrong, if any, to tell you the truth. And then I used that information to write my 3 books. But my position was, and it's mostly in my second book on the results of the election, which were this thing never should have been certified. And it's basically the same, in a sense, language that I believe you guys have shared. You cannot certify this. It's not certifiable. No matter which area I looked at, and at the end of each chapter, I'd write that. And because of this area, whatever it is not certifiable. Is that consistent with how you'd look at it, or the comparison, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you would have that understanding as a CPA auditor. You understand, reconciliation and what appear to be tampered with records. But I would totally agree. United Sovereign Americans never claims to have any idea who won any election. We just point out the fact that the election officials obviously have no idea who won any election either, but they certified the results. So how did they do that? They have special goggles, they can just tell how legitimate someone named Asterisk is as a voter because they can just see right through that asterisk to the legitimacy of that individual's identity. It's bogus. They have no right to do this. Their job is to serve the American people in delivering legitimate representative government, period. So, I think one of the things that I would like to address a little bit here while we're on the Tina's show, especially, is this issue of how do we have help her? How do we get her out of this nightmare scenario that she's been trapped into? Because, like you're saying, a lot of people who don't have the backstory and the legal knowledge about how things are supposed to operate in a legitimate process, it's really easy for folks to get the wool pulled over their eyes. But what Tina Peters did was fulfill her duty to the federal government in protecting critical national security infrastructure, taking a time-stamped copy of critical data before it could potentially become corrupted, not necessarily on any kind of deliberate basis, but just because everybody knows what happens when there's a software update. You get a pile of glitches on your hands. So she's securing this information, and she has a duty to do that to the federal government. So one of the issues I think that she's dealing with is like, okay, so she's supposed to be taking this timestamp copy of this system, but how did the system even get into place? Well, one of the issues that United Sovereign Americans raises is it has nothing to do with the machines in terms of are they operating properly, or are they matching signatures? Are they flipping votes? Are they connected to the internet? These are actually really superficial issues, and they're trivial issues compared to the first problem we have with the machine systems, which is that they never passed a CFIUS review. What's CFIUS? The Committee on Foreign, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm just going to look to the side here for just a minute. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which is a United States Department of Treasury committee that is chaired by the United States Commerce Committee, chaired by the Secretary of Commerce, currently Mr. Lutnick. And this committee is required to comprehensively review under very, very stringent federal laws every single component or system element that is being proposed to import into the United States of America and use to secure critical infrastructure. So this never happened. I mean, the significance of this one single point will blow your mind when you realize that every piece of voting equipment currently being used in the United States of America, in every polling site, in every township, in every county, never passed a supply chain review for critical infrastructure. So whether or not A, B, C, D, or E is happening inside of that machine is almost immaterial when you consider the fact that no one ever tried to figure out if it was going to be securable in the first place. And yet, what happens? The American people, like a bunch of, trusting people, end up spending probably billions or maybe trillions of dollars at this point on these systems that never passed a basic supply chain review for critical infrastructure, which means there could be components inside of those systems that were, that allow for foreign hostile penetration of our digital border. And here we are, we're in this ridiculous argument. Can we prove that happened? That is exactly the opposite. The critical infrastructure components do not have the right of due process. American citizens have the right of due process. So the election officials, the Department of Commerce, all of these different agencies, and of course, we're very hopeful that Mr. Lutnick will do the right thing. Secretary Lutnick will do the right thing and review what happened in the previous administrations. But they brought all this equipment in, we paid for it, and all of it is illegal. And they have to prove to us that it doesn't compromise our security posture. That's how this works. It's the opposite of what they're saying. They have to prove it to us. They have to prove. And now the state of Colorado that, prosecuted this woman who was just doing her job on behalf of the American people, they have to prove that the system she was attempting to secure was legal in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it wasn't. And so the argument is, how can you hold her accountable for a crime when the system she was even working with wasn't even basically legitimate or
Right.
legally in place?
Yes, and the state is responsible for that. as well as the federal government. And so how is it that the federal government doesn't have the
Yeah.
authority to go in? Because they're saying, oh, well, she was prosecuted by the state, so the federal government has
Yeah.
no authority. That's
Yeah.
not true. And
Nonsense.
there is
What-
Supreme Court precedent going back 150
Yeah.
years that shows that the United States law views election officials, when they are administering a dual state and federal election, views them as accountable to both sets of law. End of story.
End of story. And I wrote a whole chapter on compliance of these systems where I addressed that, and I said none of these systems are in compliance with the with some of the laws per, I guess that it was the HAVA Act initially, because the certifiers weren't even accredited properly. So how can you have
Right.
you know,
But that's
certified
even, you
information?
see, that's even downstream from this issue,
Yeah.
which is here's the national border. How did they cross the border? Where is their documentation? Where's their naturalization
Yeah.
certificate for each one of these pieces of equipment
Wow.
to even be allowed to enter the United
Yeah.
States of America and applied in a critical infrastructure
Well, I'm
system?
so glad you're
It's
saying this.
so
It's
simple.
really, it's so important what you're saying. And I gotta tell you, we're gonna have to go, but can't wait to see you in April 4th through 6th in St. Louis, I guess here in about a week. And it'll be a lot of fun, and we can talk a lot more about this then. But Marley, thanks so much for all you're doing, you, and say hi to Harry and all that he's done as well. Been
Sure.
just great patriots. And thanks for
Yeah, and I just want to
this.
add, if people want to come and join Joe and myself in St. Louis, go to uniteforfreedom.com and sign up for our conference. Comprehensive solution. How do we fix this through legislation, through criminal investigation, and through citizen advocacy at every level of our government? So definitely be in St. Louis. Come and join us there. There's about 30 tickets left. And it would be a tragedy for America if all those seats weren't filled and everybody wasn't getting totally up to speed on how we're going to fix this, the American people.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it. Thank you so much. Say hi to Harry. We'll see you over the weekend. Thanks so much. And then it's been an honor to be with you all today on Tina's show. Thank you. Got to cut out here, but have a great day, and we'll see you hopefully in St. Louis.
Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they come after you if you're investigating, that sort of thing.